And here's the truth. And it's not like I was running, because I always tell people, you have to try at something first before you leave that thing. Because in most cases, you might be thinking it's not for you, but the reality is you're just not good at it. Because nobody likes something they're not good at.
Welcome to the Expand Your Experiences podcast. I'm your host, Rashawn Stevenson. The intention for this show is to facilitate conversations, deconstructing experiences, discussing lessons learned, and tools that you can apply to your everyday life. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy the show. All right, well, we live, man. I'm excited. We had a little bit of technical difficulties getting this show up and going, but we finally got it. And I'm really, really excited to have this person on my show. Somebody that I'm really inspired by in terms of just a lot, like the transition from the military, his creativity, his mindset, the way he's making moves in the world and inspiring others. I'm talking about none other than my man, Kerron Andrews. Welcome to the show.
Whoop, whoop, whoop. Man, appreciate it, man. I'll be remiss if I didn't say thank you for that magical introduction, sir. I am honored and humbled, and I really appreciate you having me. It's well overdue.
It's well overdue, man. So let's jump right in. You've been doing so much since your transition out of the military. And I really, it's so many places that I want to start, but let's start with the fact that how scary was it for you when you transitioned out of the military? What was it? Was it a fearful move, or what was your motivation? What was your mindset?
Honestly, yes and no. Yes, because I mean, I'm human, and I think, fear of the unknown is something that as human beings we all go through, right? And I've been in the military 13 plus years. When I joined the military, I was around 19, around 20, 21, around there. Mm-hmm. And, didn't really do much beyond that. I came to the United States around 19, was living in Trinidad and Tobago, Caribbean island, living a good life, playing, having a good time. Didn't do nothing grown-up-ish, you know what I mean? And got to the United States. And then straight from there, worked a couple of jobs doing welding and stuff that I really don't want to do. And then joined the Navy. So really and truly, the Navy is all that I know. I would say I have to tell you why I got out of the Navy. One of the reasons why I got out of the Navy has to do with something psychological, right? So 3 of my kids, they all got attacked by a 115-pound American bulldog, right? My youngest one, he was like 5 at the time, man. And I mean, it was a nightmare, bro. Like it really jacked me up. And, as a father, as a provider, one of your main goals is protecting your family. And ever since that moment, man, like I was just jacked up in the head. Like mentally, I was gone. I felt like I couldn't protect my family. It was hard. I started having nightmares. Honestly, got PTSD from it because, I came in, I walked in and I had blood everywhere. My son's arm is open and he's tiny, man. I have to go to the hospital. They have to do surgery on his arm. And my 2 older kids, the same thing. And, the military was good. I was in the EOD command at the time, and it was really good to me, man. They took care of my family, and, they brought them up, give them awards, and things kind of trying to settle down a little bit. And when time for me to deploy, I told my master chief, I'm like, man, I said, I can't go on this deployment. And they're really good over there. He was like, Boats, what's going on? Talk to me. He doesn't, no, he said, I'm here for you. Talk to me. And I told him, I said, I don't think I can leave my family, man. And I'm in the special warfare unit, so we gotta deploy. That's just part of it, And I said, no, man, I can't do it. I just can't. I'm talking about literally, we already did our workups and stuff, and we're about to leave probably maybe in a month. And I just dropped that bomb, and I'm supposed to be, the petty officer in charge. And I dropped that bomb on him. I said, man, I can't do it. And so long story short, I went to go seek professional help, talk with a psychologist. And after a few sessions of him talking with me, he basically said, I think you should get out. He said, honestly, that would probably be the best thing to do because your mind is not there. I just knew I wasn't going to leave my family. So on my transition out now, if I transition out, I got to eat, right? I got to live. So But if I have to do that, that would require me to get a job.
Mm-hmm.
If I get a job, that means me not having control of my time. I wanted to have control of my time so I can be around the people that I need to watch 24/7 as much as I can.
Mm-hmm.
And so a job wasn't going to do it. I was, I had to get be an entrepreneur. So I started doing research and different things and trying to figure it out. These are the time it was scary. You know what I mean? Because I'm thinking about getting out. I know what the hell I'm going to do. And I got into network marketing, bro. I got into network marketing. And I never forget my mentor at the time, and the guy who was, who got me in and stuff. He was like, yo, I'm not going to work with you unless you read this book, unless you read. I'm like, read, man, I want to do sales. I'm ready to go. Now, I was already a recruiter. I was a really good recruiter too. So sales was my thing. So I knew sales was one of the things where, you can really raise the bar because you just got to hunt. That's all you got. You got to hunt. And he was like, yeah, you got to read this book. And where I'm like, read? I'm like, what? He said, read the book called Think and Grow Rich. I wonder if I got it back there. But it's called Think and Grow Rich. And I started reading a book. I haven't read a book. I was like 30-some years old. I haven't read a book in 30-something years. So I'm reading this book, and the book is old, and it's like poetry and shit to me, man. It doesn't make no sense to me. But after the third time, I had to read over and over again because, I had to become bigger than my problems. It was either read a book or just suffer. Yep. So I started reading, I started getting, and that book led to a next, and that book led to the next. And before you know it, man, I just had this huge paradigm shift. It's crazy how that works. I literally, I feel like I reprogrammed my mind. The old Kerron, who was a booger-eating moron in the Navy, just really, you know what I mean? I literally replaced that from reading, but most importantly, application of what I was learning. And once that happened, I saw a new perspective. Everything was clear. I had a plan. I know what I want. I was scared because I'm human. But you couldn't tell me nothing because this is rewired now. That boot camp mentality, the Navy mentality, all that stuff has already been rewired. So when I was trying to get out, and I was talking to like my chiefs and stuff, they was like, man, you don't go out, it's scary out there, da, 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 da. And because I was reading, I knew what they was telling me was only a reflection of their fears and has nothing to do with me. So for me, I was like, I got to roll. And it's funny because I wrote a book while I was in the Navy because I had so much stuff in here. And the funny thing is, I didn't even know what the hell I was doing. I just know I just had to get it out. Because I was averaging, bro. I literally was averaging around 3 books a month. I shit you not. Because it became that much addicting. And once I started doing that, this is not even to impress you, but impress upon you. I became attractive to people. So what started to happen also, I start attracting these different people, outside the military. So I already start forming a circle, a network. So I didn't feel alone when I left. So in other words, I was preparing kind of by default the way I would happen. So yeah, I was scared at first, but once I start changing this and I start gaining a new perspective, I really wasn't scared, man. I took the leap.
Man, you said so much there that I want to dive into. But I think that we, when we really think about our life's trajectory, right? You said you moved from Trinidad and then you moved to New York, right? So that's moving from one country to another at a young age, where in New York and Trinidad, I've never been to Trinidad, but I can imagine there is night and day between the two.
Absolutely.
But just the fact that just that one little thing has already prepared you at that point in your life to that later on, where you said it was scary, but you didn't know, and you had to rewire the way you thought, so like you had to rewire the way you thought also when you moved to New York. So that was one like little check in a block as far as your experience coming to a place, being able to apply that later on, not even knowing that that's something that played a part in your transition as you move throughout life.
Yeah.
And so then you going into the military, and then so it's like you've already kind of done that before, but then you added something to the puzzle, which was reading, which then allowed you to rewire your brain and the way you thought and your perspective and everything like that. Like, so I think that's profound. And I think that's the most profound thing in that is when you said not only were you just reading, but you were applying the knowledge.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Like how important is that? I mean, because some people might hear you say, hey, you know what, read, but reading is nothing unless you apply the knowledge.
Yeah, for me, how the application came is because I was learning. So I was in sales, right? And I had to, in this network marketing group that was called Paycation, was like this travel company type thing. And I shit you not, man, in my first 6 months, I recruited about 70 people. And it didn't matter what your profession was. It didn't matter if you were, a doctor. It didn't matter, I mean? But the way how I learned about application of knowledge is because I was reading books like How to Win Friends and Influence People, right? And that book, the reason why I love that, but I honestly, everybody on the planet needs to read that book. And it's probably one of the only books you really need, because the reality is we're dealing with people on a day-to-day basis. Nothing else. You can't move ahead in life unless you're dealing with people, and human beings are emotional. So the things in that book, in order for me to become effective at sales, but more importantly, be more attractive, I had to literally apply the things that I'm learning in that book. Things like stop talking and just shut up and listen. It's something as simple as that. I never thought about. Everybody's always thinking about what they have to say while the next person's talking to them and they're not listening. That book say, hey, look, be quiet, let people talk you to death, listen to them, pay attention, and they'll love you for listening. Ask good question. And these are the things that I applied, and I watch it. And while I'm doing it, I'm sitting there listening to thinking this person about to give me their number, and I'm not even going to ask for it. And it's funny because it's like, I already know I feel like it's like manipulation, but it really isn't, because I'm intentionally, listening to the person and giving good feedback. And, but I just know there's psychological hacks. But I knew once I started applying these tricks in the book, every other book that I read, once I start applying it too, I know it will work. So I get, man, that application of knowledge, that's what changed you. You can read, like you said, you can read all day. But it made me a better husband, made me a better father, made me more understanding. I would say definitively it's the reason I'm here today. The reason why you're having this conversation, you probably wouldn't have me on your show if it wasn't for it. So yeah, man, it's honestly the one of the best things that I could ever do in my life.
Well, I mean, so that's where you got into network. And by the way, the network marketing thing is a thing that I did too when I was very, very young. And it's so funny that like one of the first books that you learn to read is Think and Grow Rich, because what you just said happened to you was the same exact thing that happened to me when I got into network marketing when I was young.
Yeah.
He said, a mentor said I had to read Think and Grow Rich. I read it, and I didn't quite get it. I mean, there were some principles in it that I understood, but I didn't get it.
Yeah.
Like I really didn't get it. I didn't get it until at least 3 or 4 times later. Then I got it. And now, because like you, I really didn't like to read, but what I learned was I didn't like to read at that time because I was just reading for the sake of reading. I was just trying to read. Like I'm thinking like, oh, I could just pick up a book and read. And then, but what I learned is for me, reading is beneficial when I'm reading things that I want to learn, and B, things that are interesting to me.
Yeah.
Right. And like, being the best version of myself is interesting to me, and learning things about me and learning things about other people's experience is interesting to me, because then I can kind of take those things and it gives me confidence to say, you know what, this person can do this. I can do it too. Like this person has struggles. So did I, you know what I mean? So they overcame struggles. So can I. So I feel like those are the elements of reading that I wanted to take a little bit of time to expound upon, just because it's so important and many people don't do it.
You insane. You speak in my absolute language, man. For me is actually a mirror reflection of what you're talking about right now. So I was just having to find the things that I love, and personal development was one. I knew there's a quote from Jim Rohn, bro, my favorite quote on the planet. He said, and once I got this, ever since then, I just been living by that. He said, your level of success will rarely exceed your level of personal development, because success is not something you chase. Success is something you attract by the person whom you become. Once I got that shit, 5 years to me is one of them things where I'm excited to see what's going to happen in 5 years, because I know I'm doing the things now to make myself better. So just imagine what I'll be the next 5 years. Like I'm in film now. So I'm just thinking all the studying that I'm doing, bro. And I was telling my actor friend of mine, we go back and forth, we read scripts, and we go back and we read books, and we share our knowledge, and we dissecting these Hollywood movies and calling it trash, and you know what I mean? Because if they have a big budget, we can give them no excuses. But one of the things that actors, they struggle, right? And I was like, look, bro, let's stay on this train. Imagine what we're learning and how we're growing right now. Where do you think we're going to be in the next 5 years? Just having that understanding alone, that this knowledge and what we're applying every day, when we get to that point, man, we'll be monsters. So for me, the future is always bright when you're working on yourself, I believe. And once you fully grasp that, every time I feel like every time I read a book and I finish, I feel like, like Goku leveling up and shit, like Super Saiyan, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, man, it's really important, man. I never thought 20 years, 10 years ago, you say, hey, Kerron would have been reading books. I'd say you crazy. Because I used to love video games. I still do, but I rarely play them. If I do, probably on the weekends and stuff. That was my drug, video games. That's all I did.
But you know what, Kerron? I think when you break it down, when you rewind 10 years, like you said, and you said, you couldn't, it's hard to believe that you would have been reading. But the difference between then and now is that what you're doing now is intentional. Had you had that intentionality and even understood what that was back then, you could have been applying some of those principles. But unfortunately and fortunately, life doesn't work like that. You learn things when you're supposed to learn them. And then because like now you understand, you have that principle, and you know that what you do now is what's creating the future. And what you're doing in the present moment pretty much is creating the past and the future at the same time. So I think that that's super huge. And the big point that I take from that is just being intentional with how you cultivate yourself in this present moment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I hate conformity, man. You say the opposite of courage isn't fear, it's conformity. And I think, when you subject yourself to conformity, you're living your life subconscious, right? It's bad enough 95% of what we do every day is on a subconscious level. So I have to be in control of my life. I don't want to be a creature of circumstance, meaning that, life is happening to me and I'm not happening to life. So when I make the moves, I feel great. I feel empowered. When I make a checklist the night before and I check that box off for everything that I do, and I have structure, I feel empowered to get throughout the day. Those little wins, those little dopamine hits I get from every time I check a box. For like right now, I get up, I come in here, this is like a bedroom / office, all my camera equipment in here. I wake up every morning at 4:30. I pray before I get out of bed, brush my teeth. And when I pray, I put my headphones in my head. I'm listening to something inspirational. And then I from there, by the time I'm done with that, I get to here at 5 o'clock in this room. I have my table full of books back there. I have a book that I'm reading. I have the different days separate out. I sit down, I read for an hour. When I'm done reading for that book for an hour, time to take my son to school. Take my son on the way to school. I'm listening something because I have that plan for the day. And every day like that, man. So it feels really good to be in control, because when you're not in control, when you don't plan, when you don't write things down, you just you're left, you're right, you're everywhere, and you're nowhere. 1 minute you're thinking about work. When you're at work, when you're at work, you're thinking about, play. And when you're playing, you're thinking about work. No, when I'm playing, I'm playing. And when I'm working because it's intentional. So I just really hate, not being in control. I mean, I can't be in control of everything, but I know that I'm the catalyst of my success based on my decisions, right? And that's just what it is.
Well, I really want to talk about filmmaking.
Okay, let's do it.
But not yet, okay. Because I want to go through a little bit more of what got you to filmmaking. I want to go down the path, right?
Yeah.
So you got out of the military, you were killing it in network marketing, you were reading. What was the next phase in between where you are now and where you were then?
Okay, so after the network marketing thing, what started happening? The company started to tank, and I had some bad experiences with some of the leaders in that company. And I was learning sales, and I was learning a lot of manipulation. Because I was recruiting people, but I wasn't learning how to keep them. My attrition rate was low. If I was learning how to keep them people, I would make way much, you know what I'm saying? I'd make a lot of money, but I didn't care about them. I knew I want to be a millionaire, multi-millionaire, and nobody was going to stop me. And so what started happening, I started neglecting my family. I started neglecting my kids. I was making phone calls. I used to call, man, I swear everybody on Facebook right now, if they go in their message and they look at things, I guarantee I message them about this company. And if you said no, okay, to hell with you, on to the next. Because guess what? You in order to get to the yes, you got to get so much no's, right? And I've hit so many people up. I had my law of averages was maybe around, it started around like 9, then it go down to like 6, and then it got to, it's like getting closer and closer because I getting better with every call. But if you tell me no, well, bye, see ya, boop, I don't want to be here because I'm gonna be wealthy and you're gonna be nothing. That's what I believe because I wasn't applying the other principles of empathy, and I was reading the certain books to give me that type of perspective. So once I start reading other books, I start realizing, man, I'm doing this wrong. I lost some friends. I lost some friends, man, because I didn't give a shit. I wanted to be a millionaire, and when I brought them in, I left them by themselves because I just the goal was I need to create this big team, but with no leadership, because I had my eye was on the prize. I want to be a millionaire, and I was living in the future and not in the present. And that was killing me, man, because you got to live in the present, man. If you're not in the future, and you know what I'm saying? So what started happening is I pulled away from that. And I was like, okay, so what's the next best thing? Right? I'm trying to get my hustle on, man. And so I like I said before, I was becoming attractive and I was attracting different people. And that's why, and I always just say that coincidence is God's way of staying anonymous, right? People come into your life for a reason. And I met somebody else, and this person, point me in the direction of this fantastic group of people. I was the minority in the group as white people. And I went to this little convention thing, and everybody, there was like doctors there was lawyers. I mean, there was speakers, there was, a lot of entrepreneurs. And what we learned at that meeting was how to write books, learn how to write books. But more importantly, learn how to help other people write books and get to bestseller. So I jumped in that, man, head on, and I learned about it. And I created, I would say maybe like 8 or 9 number 1 bestsellers. Some of them were international bestsellers, and helped them to write a book in less than a month, sometimes a month. I don't have an English degree. I still can't spell certain letters. But that information on what I applied, it was a nice little hustle for me. Sometimes, depending on the client, I can charge $5,000 for a book. And really and truly, all I learned was, these algorithms on Amazon, and you gotta know what the categories to pick, when to pick them, when to launch the book. I tell my client, hey, sell the book for 99 cents, because guess what? Everybody got 99 cents. They're gonna buy a book, and then in that day, we blast it out on Facebook, blast it out on your email, tell everybody, hey, I'm buying a book, because now everybody love you. You're an author, and everybody will buy it. And boom, the next day, you're a number 1 bestseller. You up there with Kevin Hart, and then you see in your book next to like Kevin Hart and stuff. I have my clients literally, they're like, yo, my book was next to, so. But more importantly, they was using the book as a catalyst to get them in front of people, because author literally means authority, right? That's where it derives from. So having a book was actually worth more than having a master's degree or a doctor's. So when I had my book, if I get in front of you and you're a client, like, man, that guy, he has a trade, but this guy has a best-selling book. Who do you want to work with? Now it's intriguing. So when I meet profound people, multimillionaires and stuff in the winery, wherever I go, and I'm talking to them and I'm listening, because I'm using what I learned from How to Win Friends and Influence People. I'm talking to them. And then I say, by the way, oh yeah, I want to give you this. Like, what is that? Oh, this is my best-selling book on blah, blah, blah. And the whole dynamic just changed. I can see it in their eyes. It's like they're looking at a celebrity or something. And now they want to know more about me. And I just made a friend. So that was one of the things. I did that for a while, and trying to figure things out. I'm like, okay, yeah, don't really want to do that. There was something about it felt wrong, because it's not like I was doing it illegally. It was legal, it's a hustle. And because a lot of people are making good money. Some people charge $20,000 for a whole book package, and they literally do. They don't even work 4 days. I can't make this shit up. Based on the clients you get, in 4-day time, they charge a whole $20 book package. And if the person got the money for it and they see the value, they'll pay for that value. And from there, I wanted to do real estate. Well, no, I got into fitness. I was always big into fitness. I was like, you know what? Why not get into the fitness community? When the school did yoga, did weight loss specialists, I did everything, man. Exercise correction, performance enhancement, literally anything to do with fitness, I did it. But yoga was one of the most profound things I ever did. Got into that for a little bit, was, teaching people. Of course, while I was doing that, the military was paying me a lot of money to go to school. So yeah, that was good too. But once I started doing that, I realized, like, this is not where I want to be. This is not where I want to be. I was like, you know what? Let me try real estate because that's sales. I have a bunch of real estate buddies. They're doing really well in real estate. And so I started learning up on that, took the test. On my second try, I passed it, got in. And boom, suits and ties and, lapel pins, your boy is swagging. And I started learning about real estate. Got the books for that too. I still have some of these books right now. And I got into it big time. And what started to happen is I start to attract a lot of people on social media. I start making all these videos, all these cool videos, man. And I'll be at an open house, and some of them be funny as shit. I'm making about ghost stories in the house. And the realtors who were doing a lot better than me were thinking I was a top dog. I can't make this up. I used to be walking the street, and people are like, man, you're that speaking realtor dude. You know what I mean? Like, no, man, I bet I see you all the time, man, shaking my hand, man, continue doing what you're doing. I'm like, holy shit, what I'm doing is working. Yeah. So I was really branding myself without even knowing. But the reason why, I spent so much time on branding, because without even knowing, I honestly was discovering what I wanted to do with my life, which was filmmaking. Now, it's funny how I got into, I have a good friend called Ivy. She said, man, you ever think about editing and doing that type of stuff? You always make that. I'm like, I ain't do time for that shit. I want to be a multimillionaire in real estate. Because, real estate is good. You sell a house in California, $20,000 check. Right. You know what I mean? Depending on the type of the house, man, money's good. Yep. Especially if you hustle it and you know the game. And, but the more I start, because I didn't stop personal development, by the way. Oh man, I jumped one. I was actually a speaker before that. My bad. I got into being a speaker. And that's where I really changed, because in order for me to be a speaker, be this young and talk to an audience is 50, 60, who've been in business, who is a multimillionaire already. In order for me to do that, I had to know the things that they wasn't willing to learn. And that's what I did. I have over 100 and some books right here, literally in my library. I've read all of them. And some of them I read it more than once. And I had to do that, because in order for me to become the professional, I had to know more than them. And that's what I did. So when I get on the stage and people start falling down because, see, this young man can't teach me nothing, by the time I'm halfway there, their arms unfolded and they're leading them forward into the information. And it was just working, and I loved it, man. And I don't know what in me tell me, well, maybe this ain't the thing. But, and here's the truth. And it's not like I was running, because I always tell people, you have to try at something first before you leave that thing. Because in most cases, you might be thinking it's not for you, but the reality is you're just not good at it. Because nobody likes something they're not good at. Right. So I encourage you to perfect the craft, get to a certain level, and then make that decision. A person might be hating their job. 9 times out of 10, when they're hating their job, they're not making any money. You know what I mean? They ain't getting the hours, because why? They ain't good at it. But somebody else in that job is getting it, though. You might ask them, hey, how much you make at your job? Oh, I make only $20,000 a year. And you're like, that's it? Yeah, that's what they pay me. No, that's what they pay you. Somebody else in that company is making more based on what they do at the job. So long story short, don't jump to the next thing. Just get into it, commit to mastery, and then decide. And I know I was a good speaker. I had everything, I literally had a speech for like an hour and a half verbatim in my head that I could have go down the line without stop. And I was doing what was necessary to get me where I needed to be. So I was like, you know what? This is not for me. Let me try the real estate. That's how I got into the real estate. And then from the real estate, the whole video thing come along. And I was doing great in real estate. Nobody's going to tell me that I was going to crush the game. But the more I started doing the videos and that other stuff, the more I started realizing, man, I need to get into this. Then another guy that I met, who I networked with, his name is Humphrey, a retired military Marine, showed another guy in Boston, white guy in Boston, said, hey, check this guy out, man. He does some really unique stuff. The guy sends me a friend request, and I accept it. I'm like, okay, I looked at his page. Okay, seems like he's pretty cool. And he'd been my cheerleader for maybe about a year. Everything I post, man, great stuff, big dog. I love the message, love what you're doing. Then after about a year or two of me making the videos and stuff in the real estate, he messaged me. He said, man, you ever think about acting? I blew him the hell off. I'm like, acting? What are you talking about? In fact, I saw the message, didn't even answer it. Some petty shit. I'm like, what am I doing? What happened was I got the fear of loss. Went to his page. Lo and behold, he funded his own movie. He's a big CEO, run multiple businesses. Guy's doing it big in Boston. He funded his own movie, and this guy's telling me, "Hey, you ever thought about being an actor?" So I went back and I messaged him. And when I started messaging him, talking back and forth, he started coaching me because he also did acting. But he loves the arts. He loves being creative, but he has the money to fund this, all this type of stuff. And he said, you're doing great, man. All you got to do now is go to auditions. And what I started learning, okay, I took a few acting classes. I was getting good at it. But what I started realizing in the acting world, because remember, I have to be in control, right? That's my whole thing. I have to be in control. But I realized I have to beg these people for their stories. I have to literally beg them. Some of the top actors right now still have to go to auditions. Unless you're Tom Cruise or Will Smith, you don't have to worry about that. But everybody else, they had to go to auditions and they might not get selected. But I'm creative at heart. So you know what? I said, I need to become a director. This is what I need to do. Start shooting my own movies, even start acting it, because I didn't have anything. I just had my cell phone and whatever. While people was making extras, I was like, no, I'm going to shoot in it. If I can't get an actor, I'm going to act in it. And I did everything that I can. I remember I opened up my computer software, man, to editing, because I had to use a professional editing software instead of, my phone and stuff. And I never forget, it's called Premiere Pro. When I looked at the software, man, it was like I was watching neuroscience, bro, like astrophysics or something. And that voice in the back of my head, man, that inner monologue was like, he's like, fuck that shit, bro. You need to go back to real estate. That ain't for you. But I knew when I heard that voice, I knew what it meant. And I only knew what it meant because I've been, really big into personal development. That voice was telling me that, hey, man, I need you to be comfortable. I don't need you to try this. This is hard. You don't even like math. This thing looks complicated and convoluted. Run from this, bro. Go back to the safe zone, what you already know. And I knew that voice was only telling me that because it was challenging. And I knew in order to overcome that, I had to continue with it. So I embraced the voice. I'm like, you know what? I feel you, but I'm going to do this anyways. I'm going to silence you. So, man, I spent day and night, man. I didn't sleep because I had to figure out this program of editing day and night, bro. And then it just clicked. But I also knew that it was going to click too, because that's how the mind works, right? I read a lot of books on the brain and subconscious and stuff like that. And then it clicked and it started making sense. I'm like, wow. I first looked at this thing and it was a foreign language. So I got into it, decided to go into college to enhance my education and stuff. Honestly, college is more like a formality. There's a lot of things you can learn. You really don't need it. Some of the top directors didn't go to college, but I knew in order for me to get ahead, this would have been the right thing to do. Jumped into college, and ever since then, man, things started taking off, man, because I never stopped growing. And even the films I made in the past, I look back and I cringe at some of the stuff that people like. Like, I cringe because I've never stopped growing. The same guy that got me into acting, that was the main guy, I remember him telling me he's going to start a streaming service. The streaming service is up now. It's called Reveal. They're running big. They're about to go public pretty soon. And I'm literally close friends. He's literally my mentor. Anything that I make, I'm in there. You know what I mean? Now I'm in Hollywood. I'm working with Hallmark actors, filming a series called Hearts of Stars. I mean, I would never used to really watch a Hallmark channel, but these people are mega stars in the Hallmark channel. I was in their homes, in Studio City, making a lot of money for just one day, just using the talents that I learned. I'm doing a documentary right now. I mean, I could go on and on, man. But I love it, man. I don't sleep. This is what I do. I will do this for free. And I am doing this for free. Like the documentary I'm doing right now requires all my time, interviewing these people, driving to San Diego, but it's such a bigger cause. It's something so much bigger than myself, to bring, it's called Once a Marine, Always a Marine, really trying to help other military vets. It's something such bigger than myself that to me, it's an amazing thing to do, man, to be a part of, just to bring people together like that. That's all the payment I need. Honestly. So I tell people, I said, I'm the happiest man alive. I'm not where I want to be, but I thank God I'm not where I used to be. But I'm moving, forward in the right direction, and I know I'm going to get there. So, my health is good. I have a roof over my head. I'm still in the real estate and that type of stuff too. Big time. I have mentors helping with that, because at the end of the day, I believe everybody should either try to get properties and stuff so you can create that passive income. But filmmaking is my purpose. I found it, but I found it through trial and error of doing the multiple things, not by running from them, But by just being so aware, I knew that this wasn't for me. So I don't want to set the bad example and be like, hey, just try different things. No, work at it first. And if you're good at it and you like it, then stay. Because purpose is one of them things that's really hard to understand. If books could tell you what they want about it, but it's not an easy thing. So work at it until you get good, so you're not leaving because you're bad at it. So. And here I am now, man. Just, I won a few awards with some of my short films that I made. I have one other short film. I think I sent it to you. I don't know if you got time to watch it.
I watched it.
It's in the film festival. It's going through the film festival circus right now before I rack up. And I'm working on 2 more short films. And after those, I'm just making feature films. That's it. Because I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm just constantly growing. So yeah, that's here I am now, man.
So the thing that I want to talk about as far as your filmmaking process, man, I've been able to watch a few films, and I literally can see everything that you just described, the path that you just took us to. I can see it in your filmmaking process. Everything from just the fact that but what surprised me about the films that I've seen is your ability to draw my emotions in immediately. Like I'm pulled in emotionally immediately and locked in, and I haven't even seen any of your horror stuff. The things that I've seen, I saw I saw Anniversary you sent me. Thank you for sending me that and give me a preview of that. That's circulating through the film circuit, you said, and Deploy. And then I was able to watch some of the other stuff that you made, just making through the iPhone. And I wouldn't call myself like a film connoisseur. I mean, I do like watching movies, and I do like watching good movies. But again, the things that I've seen, I was literally drawn in emotionally. I'm captivated by your attention to detail. Like, for example, in Deploy, I'm curious when there's a scene where you, as the actor, for those of you who want to go check them out, your acting is incredible as well. But there's a scene where you answer the door and there's an eviction notice. Then you walk away from the door and there's a picture of a lady on the wall. Is that someone you're related to?
Yeah, that's my mother-in-law, man. That's my mother-in-law. Yeah. That's my mother-in-law. She's family for real.
Okay. And I assume, and that's what I mean by attention to detail. Just the even when you're, walking through and the broken glass on the floor and like just that type of attention to detail. And so I wanted to ask you, man, what is your creative process? Like, where do these ideas come from? How do you create them in a way to where you're drawing the viewer in emotionally like that? And is that intentional?
Man, okay. So filmmaking, man, is voodoo. It's witchcraft, man, because literally what we're doing to people when you watch a film is we're a driver of emotion. So hence the reason why you can look at a film and maybe the animations are garbage, or maybe the quality looks terrible. But for some reason, you'll still watch it because the story might be good, right? And the thing about, and that's why everything that have led me up to this point was supposed to happen, like you said, because all the books on psychology that I've read, everything that I learned about the brain is the reason why I can apply these things to film. Because when I'm making a film, I'm thinking about one thing, right? And all of this, I've learned this. I can't just say it's innate. I have an innate, creative thing in me, but I really see the world through a different, set of lenses now. Like, if somebody's watching a rock, they might just see a rock. I might see the minerals in the rock or the little sparkles or the, what I mean? There's always an underlying message in everything that I see. So there's always a theme behind, a lot of my films. So with all that being said, we're emotion drivers. That's what we do. We are manipulating people's emotions. The brain cannot tell the difference between what's real and what's fake. Correction, the subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between what's real and what's fake. Hence the reason why you might watch a movie, your conscious mind knows that it's not real, but yet you're crying, because you really can't tell the difference. As a filmmaker, when you understand that concept, you take that and apply it into your films to really grab people's attention. So a perfect example, one of the things that you will see in a lot of movies is that when they start a movie, they try their best to make sure that you love the character that you're watching. If you haven't done that, if you haven't make the audience care about the character, then the movie's not going to be good. Because why the hell am I watching this? I don't care about you or what you're going through. I don't care if a car drops on top of you. You're not giving me any reason to like the character. So sometimes it's good to do little things like that to really drive the emotion of people. There's a lot of techniques, man. Like I said, it's really witchcraft. That's all we do. We're manipulating people. We're thinking about every thought, the way how people, they converse with each other. Every time you converse, it's like mini stories. If you're talking to somebody, believe it or not, there's a story in that. You have to understand that if I'm talking to you on the screen, that person wants something. And the other person who is replying, he wants something too. As a filmmaker, I have to understand that and relay that to the screen. So there's emotion in it. Every time that you see dialogue or you see a scene, there's a story within that scene, a beginning, a middle, and an end. And if you can do that and just make little bits of those scenes together to make a whole movie, then you will have a good movie. As far as me being creative, I've been watching a lot of movies for a long time. You said you're not a movie connoisseur. I'm inclined to disagree. And the reason being is you might not be able to say maybe the jogging, the filmmaking jargon, but trust me, you've watched enough films to know what's a good film and what's a bad film. Mm-hmm. And then you might think something is wrong. I don't know what it is, man, but this film is shit. You know what I mean? I can't tell what it is, but it didn't do it for me. Mm-hmm. And 9 times out of 10, when that happens is because you recognize, because you have perspective and watch so many movies, you recognize what a good story is. So like with Deploy was one of them things, man. I never forget. I did not expect Deploy to do what it did when I showed it. I did a little opening in my house, had some friends, around to look at it. And when it was done, bro, everybody in the house was crying. Everybody in the house was crying. It won some award. Everybody who's seen that film, and I think it went around a couple of military bases too, because I had a few people that say, "Hey, man, I want to do my training with this." I say, "Hey, by all means, go ahead." And he come back and tell me it was impactful. I had a multitude of vets reaching out to me about Deploy. Deploy was really impactful. And what it is that you went on a ride with him. You look at the quality and stuff. They had a cheap camera, and I just made it happen. But all it is just you taking a ride with this guy. You feel sorry for him, and then the end, boom, you realize that he has I don't want to talk it out. He has, and that's like shocking. And all that is just playing with people's emotions. That's it.
And you did it because, I watched it twice because the first time at the end of it, I realized that there was no dialogue until the end.
None. There's not one.
And then I was like, yo, was that whole thing literally just playing out in my, and that to me, when I saw that, I knew, I was like, man, this guy got a story to tell. And for you to be able to create that but now after talking to you and seeing just the things that you've done, I understand why you are able to produce that. And this is just the beginning. Man. So like, I'm excited to see, like you said, the 5 and the 10 years from now, what that's gonna be, man. But back to the creative process though, like, do you, I know you spend a lot of time in introspect. Like, how do these ideas develop within you to how do these stories develop?
So reading and watching other material. It's really and truly, you really can't create unless you put something in here. You know what I mean? And me understanding that, I know I have to intentionally read other scripts. So I'm always reading other scripts. I'm always reading different books. I'm reading, fictional stuff. I'm looking at other short movies, and all I'm doing, I'm just data dumping. Just taking all this, because it's really hard to make anything original. And 9 times out of 10, when you see a movie, it's really not original. It's more of a uniquely familiar. You know what I mean? And that's kind of like an oxymoron, but it's just one of them things where you can take something you already know and twist it and make it your own. That's where the real creativity comes, because in order for me to really be original, I would probably have to be like the only human on earth and, create my own thing, because all the ideas already put out there. I've already taken in different things. So I might believe I'm original, but I guarantee you every movie that I make, if I believe it's original, there's something else out there like it.
So let me ask you this. I agree 100% with that sentiment in terms of art in general.
Yeah.
Meaning that all these concepts, all these ideas, they are out there. But what makes it unique as it's being filtered through you.
Yep.
Like you are what makes this unique or not, because it's being filtered through you and your experiences.
That's what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I totally agree. So, I mean, the ideas are out there and I pull it in. I just have to make it my own now and tell it in my own way. And logically speaking, I do that by, trying to stay away from the cliches, because a lot of times when my ideas do come out, I hate cliches because movies do it so much. So I'm trying to stay away from it. So I identify cliches in my script. When I write my script and I'm looking at it reading, I don't know, that's a cliche, man. I might not. Some cliches will work and some might not work. And so in other words, if I'm writing dialogue and somebody says, I love you, the cliche response that every movie person in the planet knows what that person's going to say and what's predictable is what? I love you too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say that. I want a person to say, I hate you. You know what I mean? Because a person saying I hate and then smiling at that person is literally telling them they love them.
Mm-hmm.
So things like that really does make a movie stand out instead of it being predictable and being like cliche or just being on the nose dialogue. And it's an art, so you really do have to study it. Make no mistake. I don't think there's very few people that come in this and just boom, and they're as good at it. It really is a craft. Some people say, oh, I want to be a movie, movie looks cool. Let me jump in and write. No, man, once you get in there and you realize how much things you don't know. So, we deal with unconscious incompetence, right? Meaning that we don't know that we don't know. We think we know. I was one because, Deploy didn't have a script. Well, Deploy was just an idea. You know what I mean? I wanted to get out and have a story to tell by these veterans. There was no script for that thing. I just draw a bunch of storyboards of the shots that I wanted and what I wanted to create and no dialogue. And I just went to town and I shoot. And I did everything by myself. There was nobody to help me there for Deploy. Literally nobody. I set the camera up. It was an insane process. And
so speaking of that, though, like what's interesting is how do you get in the mindset to play that character and shoot it all at the same time?
Well, that's a great question, because one of the things you'll have to learn about acting is that acting is not easy. And in order to get in that place, you have to go in a dark place. For me, I had to use my trauma, my trauma with my kids. I had to draw from that in order to get to those places. And so a lot of the times when you see me on the screen and, my face is it was real, right? It was real because I had to go to that place in order to extract that out. And it was hard. It's depressing because in order to get the best performance, you literally have to become, because it's not an act, it's real. You see what I'm saying? Like I said before, the brain doesn't tell the difference between real and fake. That's why a lot of actors, like perfect example, the guy who played Killmonger, he had to go seek therapy when he was done with Black Panther for months. He was jacked up in the head, man, because of that role. So yeah, no, when you play these type of roles, you have to go to a dark place in order to, and if you don't go to a dark place, then the performance can come off fake. The performance is not going to be real. Yeah, just really, defining that character. I had to know who the character was. You know what I mean? What he's been through. I have to, even though when I'm acting it out, in the back of my mind, I know that this guy, his wife left him, right? He has a son there. He's dealing with a lot of trauma, a lot of shit, and he's going through a hard time. He's missing the military simultaneously. And these are the things I have to constantly remind myself so I don't get out of character and I don't become Kerron. So it's deep, man. It's painful. I never forget, when I was shooting Anniversary, the actor in there, by the way, he's phenomenal. My name is Larry. And the part where he was crying, right? He had lost his sister. And it was about a year ago. And in order for him to bring that part, that shot you see is not even the best shot. We actually missed the good shot because we had some technical issues. He had to go in that place of him losing his sister. And when I said cut, never forget it. I had a camera, my camera guy there, the boom operator, the person there who's helping with the food, had like maybe 10 or 12 people in the room in the back. When I say cut, and I looked up, his snot was coming out his nose. He literally stood there and he was crying for maybe 2 minutes after that. He couldn't stop. He couldn't stop. And everybody in the room was just gone, bro. Just gone, because we all felt it. That's why I said it's like witchcraft what we do. We're playing with emotions. So just imagine we're here looking at the film and this dude is bawling his eyes out. We have to give him that, that room. And we can't even joke around while he's trying to get in that. There's no laughing and no playing around. No, because he's trying to get in character to play that role. And in order for him to do that, he has to forget that we're even here. And yeah, it's not easy, man. And I told him, I said, man, I couldn't ask you to do that again. I said, no way. No way. I have another film I'm working on right now. I had an actor fly in from San Francisco, and he's playing, it's an abusive role. And it was my homeboy's son was in the role, and I'm directing it. And he have to drag this kid, and he's dragging him down a hall and stuff. Bro, it was one of the hardest things that I ever had to do in my life. Because I know his son for a long time. I know him. And he had to act like he's slapping him. He had to rough him up. When I say that was mentally draining and depressing, I swear to God, I had like temporary PTSD from that. I just couldn't take it, So we're going to be reshooting and stuff. But, the performance didn't come out how I want to because of that. I'm the director and I had to you know what I mean? So it was really, so I really couldn't sell it. But him doing it to the son, it was hard for me to even bear. So it's a tough thing, man. Acting is not easy. People think they can act. Trust me. When you hit that record and you see that red light on you, yeah, game over for you. Everybody's watching you. Yeah.
Well, that's what was so interesting to me because, man, I know your personality. I know you're, positive. I just know your vibe, right? And I was just looking, I was like, for him to get in this role, in this mindset, and then play it. But the thing that I like about it is, as you grow on this journey, you're not asking someone to do something that you don't understand or that you haven't done yourself, So it's like you're doing this, you've done it, whether and you did it then just by the necessity of having to do it because you had a story in your head that you wanted to tell, and you it's a budget, so you did it all yourself. Yeah. But now as you make films, you can empathize with the gentleman that you were talking about that had to get into the scene where he was crying because you've had to do that before yourself. So I think that will translate into your filmmaking continuously. And it has, because like I said, I'm literally watching Anniversary last night and just like, I thought in my mind, I was like, I should have watched this earlier in the day. I shouldn't have watched it right before bed because now I'm going to be, I'm thinking about the storyline. But luckily, I didn't know it was going to end on the note that it did, but I'm glad that it did, because had it not, I would have probably had to stay up another hour or two just to kind of decompress from that. But so if you're listening to this, he has really engaging work, and I highly recommend that you go check it out. Is there any place that you would direct people to start if you were to direct anyone to a certain film, or a place to start?
Well, as far as watching my film?
Of your work?
Just go to my YouTube channel, man. Kerron Andrews. You'll find me. I have two YouTube channels. One is motivational, and one is just the director stuff. But I don't use the other one. But yeah, you should it's easy to find me, Kerron Andrews.
So here, let's do some. Let's go to the future for a second. And I'm fortunate to have you here now on the show, but in, let's just say 10 years, I know you're working on yourself now, but in 10 years, what are you creating now not what are you creating now, but in 10 years from now, what should we expect from you as a filmmaker?
10 years from now, or my films will be on every platform there is. In 10 years from now, my film will be on every platform there is. It'll be in the theaters. It'll be winning awards. They'll be on Hulu. They'll be on Netflix. And honestly, it's gonna be less before you see my films on like Amazon and Hulu and stuff. Because as soon as some of these films that I'm making right now, I'm gonna start with Tubi. Believe it or not, Tubi is a great platform for filmmakers when they're just starting. And because Tubi not only has short films, they have Hollywood films on there too. So it's going to start with Tubi. Like Anniversary is going to be on Tubi for sure. I'm going to drive traffic because what I'm going to do, I'm going to do an opening in a local theater here, fill that seat out, do like a business shower instead of a baby shower, have people come on out, charge them about $30 a ticket. They get entertainment, so they're not just giving me money. And then have links for this, even if they want to give me more. And look, this is to launch Trini Man Films. You know what I mean? The business is up already, but I haven't did like a launch yet. So I'm going to do like that, show a couple of movies in the theater, fill that theater out, make my money back from renting the theater out. And then from there, just taking it to the wind, man. Just studying and growing, just feature films, really feature films.
Well, what
and network stuff too, by the way.
When I asked you that question, there was no hesitation, that you didn't blink, you know, for sure. And what that's the type of confidence, that's the type of belief that we all need. Give people a piece of how to get that. How do you get that clear on your vision? How do you have that conviction to your vision? What is something that you can share that will, if someone wanted to start today, it might not be filmmaking, it might not be photography, it might not be any of the artistic things that we're thinking about, but it could be about to start a new bakery or whatever it is that someone is trying to do. And they want to say, hey, in 10 years, this is what I want to do. What advice do you give that person to start today on what they want to actualize in their dreams?
Honestly, man, and this song's, cliche, but you really have to start working on you first. That is the first place to start. And what that means is when you start working on you, you start realizing that you have perspective on how everything works in your life. So in other words, now a lot of the stuff I'm saying is common knowledge, unfortunately, is not common practice, right? So in other words, the reason why I can be so confident in where I'm going is because there's a formula to where I'm going. And that formula can be 1 + 1 = 2. If I am doing 1 + 1 = 2 until I get to where I'm going, there's no doubt in my mind I'm going to get there, but I have to be doing the formula. You see, I can believe in the future because I know what I have to do now to get there. And I know that there's going to be obstacles. And I know that my mind is going to tell me, look, man, this ain't for you. I'm fully aware of these things. So when the obstacles come, right? When adversity comes, I hug it. I hug adversity. I hug failure because I know that failure gets me one step closer to success. Somebody else might fail and say, hey, that makes me a failure. And the reason why they would say that is because they lack perspective. They haven't worked on themselves. So when they get defeated, they become defeated. When I get defeated, I'm not defeated because I have an awareness, not because I'm better, because I worked on me, because I did my due diligence, because I read the books, I looked at the videos, I was inspired by other people. I know if that person can do it, I can do it. Remember the mantra that I live by, I told you, your level of success will rarely exceed your level of personal development, because success is not something we chase, it's something we attract by the person who become. You might have somebody right now who might be proficient at their job, bro, and they hit this plateau. They can't move. They've been in there for years. And the reason why they can't move up anymore, because in most cases, because they're not really working on them. They can't go any further because they're not going any further, if that makes sense. And I think it's just having that awareness of self will give you the understanding that there's a formula. And if I follow the formula, then I get there. So I can have the utmost belief. And then success leave clues. Everything you're telling me right now, a validation that I'm on the right track. I want to keep making these wakes. So in my wake, I'm leaving clues behind. Look, he's growing, man. I can see from when he started till now. Remember the formula I told you about? I never forget when I just started and I was using the cell phone. I was saying, man, I can't wait till my films look like how it looks on TV. I'm here now. The first time when it happened, I cried when I saw it. The first time when I looked at him, I'm like, holy shit, I created that. Look how it looks. I cried, bro, because I was confident that I was going to get there. But obviously the mystery part is just kind of going through the ups and downs. But like I said, I know the formula, man, just really being aware of self, understanding that failure is going to happen. And when failure happens, it doesn't define you. It doesn't determine who you are. It's not who you are. It's just, I forgot, I think it's Brian Tracy. He said, there's a certain amount of times we have to fail before we can get success. And since we don't know what that number is, just go ahead and fail away. But that's the law. And I think I understand these laws. So I can have the utmost conviction in where I'm going. And I can speak like that. I say all the time, man, I can't wait till the next 5 years to see what happened, as long as I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And if I don't get there, it's my fault. But guess what? I ain't gonna stop yet. You know, I'm 39 now. I have a lot of time to play with this still. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I'm not gonna stop. So yeah, that's just really being aware of self, man. I think that's really, really important.
Oh man, that alone makes, everything you've been saying, I think has tremendous value, which is one of the reasons why, I really wanted to have you on the show, just because, like I said, you're an inspiration to many, many people. And then the work that you're doing and the growth that you've experienced. And a part of the work that you're doing is really, is, and the whole, if you can you talk about the documentary that you're currently working on and how that's going to impact some people? And that one is really near and dear, just because, my time in the service, and, we know how it is, and we know how. And one thing that's for sure that everybody in the military will experience is that you will get out one day. One day you'll get out. No matter what happens, you cannot stay in the military forever. That is the one thing that is guaranteed. And one of the things about that is a lot of people, some people struggle with that. So I think so can you talk about the documentary you're currently working on? When can we expect it? What you feel, what motivated you to do it, and so forth?
Okay, so I'm gonna start to say what motivated me to do it. Never forget, I was scrolling on Facebook. Now, this is where I was already big in personal development, already big in the mind, already confident in where I'm going and what I want to do in my life. And I was scrolling on Facebook, and I saw it was like a World War II veteran. He had this flag draped around his shoulder. It wasn't a Facebook group, like a military vet group. And on the post says, there comes a time in the military where you'll realize that you will never be able to transition into a civilian. You will always be a vet. You're a veteran now, and you always will be. Mm-hmm. And the post itself wasn't problematic. Of course, I didn't agree with the whole fact that you will never be able to transition into a citizen. What bothered me was when I go into the comments, like anybody else, I like to see what the comments say, was how many people when there were validating the post, but most importantly, or sadly, I should say, basically what they were saying is that because I believe that I will never transition into being a civilian, I'm struggling because of it right now. So they weren't happy about it. I saw struggle. And the comments, it was so much. And when I went in there and I said, it's just knowing how I think, I'm like, guys, it just doesn't have to be that way. You can change. I got attacked. I became the black sheep. And I get it. And I understand. I wasn't mad. I didn't fight none of them back. I just kind of explained my theory and what I thought. And of course, when people have an ideology, when people have a belief, they will protect it at all costs. And that was their belief. And me having perspective, I gave them that. There's no point to argue with that. It's like, telling a Christian there's no Jesus, or telling, a Muslim that his he ain't right, or vice versa, right? And so I let them be. And once I got out there, I realized, like, man, we're really suffering. Start doing my due diligence after that. And I started working on another book. I'm like 98 pages into the book. The book is called Once a Marine, Always a Marine. Once a Marine, always a Marine. Then the Marine is crossed out. Then it says veteran. So I'm saying once a Marine, always a veteran. Now, this applies to not just the Marine, it applies to all the branches. And, I fast forward, I'm in film school, and I got to the point where I'm supposed to do a documentary. I'm like, okay, we learn about documentaries. Here we go, Kerron. Time to jump in. Now, they said, the film school said, we're going to make this 10-minute documentary. I'm like, nah, bro, that ain't going to happen. Y'all going to see my work, and you're going to be like, you know what? You need to make this shit. You know what I mean? So, because I have literally over 3 hours and plus, and I still got to interview some more people, over 120 years total of experience from some dope leaders in the military, bro. I'm talking about E9s, officers, guys who have their PhDs. I have a combat veteran in there who's seen 11 deployments, and he was special warfare, EOD, 11, bro. I don't know how, and he's doing great. But yeah, so I'm making this documentary now, and so that's how it started. So the premise behind this documentary, if I just break it down, is I used to be a recruiter. Being a recruiter You know, it was, I would say, honestly, one of the best things I've done in the Navy, because when you talk about perspective, I mean, I get to talk, and I was a good recruiter. So all that means is I talk to a shitload of people, right? And I've seen a multitude of people just coming in my office. And what I've learned is that people join the military for one of two reasons: either inspiration or desperation. Inspiration because maybe they got family who served in the military. Maybe their great grandfather was a hero, and you know what I mean, or maybe, you know, a recruiter came in and was like, oh my God, I just want to wear that uniform. And then the very few small percentage of people who just actually want to serve for the country is very small. Now, desperation was 99.9% of the people that come into my office. I had people, because they're, you know, in most cases, they're running from something. They're running from their spouse. I've seen that before. They're running from their job. They're running from society. Their mom is kicking them out of the house as soon as they graduate high school. They're running from the law. Either you join the military or you go to jail. They're running from themselves. And there was a third secret reason that I just realized about a couple of weeks ago. They were all joining because they don't have purpose, right? They don't have a true identity. You know what I mean? So they're coming in my office. I had a GED at the time. They have a guy with a master's degree telling me that, hey, I want to join the military. I'm like, man, something's really jacked up out there. You know what I mean? For him to come to me. So long story short, they come to me. I send them to boot camp. They go to boot camp in whatever branch, right? That as soon as they meet that drill instructor or the how you call him I forgot how you call him in the Navy again. The RDC. Yeah, RDC. One of the things they do first, you know what they do? They take away your identity. That's what they do, especially in the Marines. They literally take away your identity. They break you back down. They give you a creed. All the branches have a creed. You have to say that creed through the entirety of boot camp. And if you pay attention to each creed, what you'll find that each creed is basically affirmations. I am, I will, right? And what you learn is that if you know anything about I am, those are the two most powerful letters on the planet, because anything that follows those two letters starts the creation of it. And you say this creed over and over. Then you learn teamwork, right? You form a tribe. You eat together, you sleep together, you shower together. Every man work together, you know, and you learn that sense of cohesiveness in boot camp. You have people who've seen black people for the first time when they come to boot camp. So now they're getting perspective. Now, all that's reinforced by doing all these military things. You become a sailor before you leave. They give you a hat, you cry, it's emotional, you know, and then they send you to your duty station. Now they're telling you what to do. They're telling you when to eat. They're telling you when to sleep. They're telling you when to go to medical, right? A lot of people think they're independent in the military. You're really not, because the orders are handed down for you to do something every day. So in a sense, they're giving you purpose. Every morning you wake up, you have a reason to wake up. You have a reason to go to work. Now you can use your ingenuity to come up with different systems to make things better. But the reality is they're handing this down to you. So they're telling you what to do. You're getting a paycheck every 1st and 15th. And you go to another duty station. You continue to reinforce this thing. You're still saying the creed, by the way, and you continue to validate your identity as a sailor, as a Marine, as an airman, as a soldier for 4 years, for 5 years, for 10 years, for 13 years, for some people 28 years. Now it's time for you to get out. You are a soldier. You are a sailor. You are a Marine. You are an airman. You get out and the military says, hey, go to this program. We're going to give you all these resources, which is great. Unfortunately, most people are not resourceful. And they send you into the real world and say, go get him, Tiger. Now, you have a lot of traits with you, right? But the problem is that identity, right, that you have, that they've reinforced for years, does not work in the real world. There's a type of incongruence in there, because what you want to be up here, that sailor mentality, that Marine mentality does not. That's why a lot of people want to go and do military jobs again, because they have to feed that need to stay consistent with how they define themselves. If not, they're miserable. So in a sense, when you leave the military, what they're doing is that purpose that you had before, that reason to get up, is now stripped away from you. When you take away somebody's purpose, you're taking away their direction. When you take away their direction, that person is now confused. And if they're confused, you best believe they're stressed. And when they're stressed, that can lead to a multitude of different things. And that can also lead to suicide. And not only that, that cohesiveness that you known before, that sense of tribal community, when you step outside, you realize how alone you are. And that's why, and you know what's funny? there's no correlation between war and suicide. So the guys who went to war, who probably killed people, who've seen their partners get killed, are less likely to commit suicide. 10% of the military goes to war, yet 50% of them file for some type of PTSD compensation. And the ones who are actually killing themselves are not the ones who are going to war. So we really have a crisis on our hand. And I believe it's an identity crisis. So if you don't have a tribe, if you don't network before you get out, you're going to be alone. Humans, we're tribal. That's what we do. We love to be around other people, and we're miserable when we're not with them. So we suffer. So even though in the military, you might have people hating each other, you might have people be racist, but when they go to war, they'll take a bullet for you. That's brotherhood. That's what brotherhood is about. They might not like you, but when general quarters go down, when that ship is on fire, you best believe every man on deck, white, black, brown, and green, is helping each other. Now that's gone. They don't have that anymore. They're alone. So my solution is, if they can spend, because I don't know what the price is, but they spend a lot of money on each sailor, each soldier when they join boot camp. When you're getting out the military, if they can program you to become, if they strip away your identity, why not give you back that identity? Why not take a year before you get out to reprogram? Say, hey, you know what? You coming in civilian clothes. Grow your beard out. Get acclimated. Leave early. Go handle your affairs. Meet new people. Form a new tribe. Like-minded veterans, not the ones who are suffering. And then that's how you get acclimated back into the real world. Now, PTSD is a real thing. Make no mistake. They need professional help for it. But I'm not just touching on that. But even the guys who I know have PTSD, like one of the guys in the documentary I had the pleasure of working with him, EOD, Master Chief. See, 11 combat deployments, lost a lot of people. This dude is gangster. I've heard the stories about him. I call him gangster, you know what I mean? Because I've heard the stories about him. He's a hero. He's a yacht broker, making a killing out there in San Diego. Loving life, positive, hanging around, has a new tribe. And he's in the documentary too, you'll see him. But yeah, I think it's very, very necessary that they reprogram you to get back out into the real world, that we have a tribe, that we work on our mind. And then, we just find a way to make life better, man, because we're suffering. We are.
Man, I got chills just listening to that, because I mean, obviously I've seen it, you've seen it, and you're actually, doing something about it just through spreading awareness and creating the narratives that you want as a filmmaker. And that's one of the reasons, that's a part of the formula that you was talking about too, connecting to your passion and doing things not for money. Because if you were trying to do something for money, you would have stayed in some of the other industries. You're doing something for impact.
Yes.
You're doing it for impact. I really want to take the time to thank you so much. Hopefully, whenever you got the time, I got to get you back on for a round 2.
And no doubt, man. Anytime,
or round
bro.
3. But before you go, what's something that you think everyone should experience?
Traveling other than the military. As sailors, we were fortunate to travel around the world. But when you get out and you do it on your own, and you take your family with you, and you actually do the tours instead of going and drinking in the bar, it really changes your life, and it really gives you perspective. I'm a man of perspective. I believe in perspective. And also something else they say experience is becoming an entrepreneur. Because as a military vet, trust me, you are made for this shit. Everything you learn in the military, trust me, if you use that to become an entrepreneur, you'll do well. So entrepreneurship and traveling the world, working on yourself, really, personal development.
No doubt. Kerron, listen, hopefully, I'm pretty sure after this, you got a lot of people, you're going to have a whole lot of new fans, a lot of people wanting to connect with you. So where can they reach you? Where can they reach out to you? Where can they engage with some of the things that you got going on?
They can reach out to me on social media, of course. I'm big on Facebook. Just my first and last name, Kerron Andrews. I'm very easy to find. On Instagram, you'll have it as Director Kerron. Or I have 2 Instagrams. You can follow me on Director Kerron or Kerron Andrews. And you would kind of just follow my journey, see my work. My page is always positive, no politics, none of that type of stuff. So yeah, those are the best places. And on YouTube, they can follow me on YouTube. I don't have everything on there, but pretty soon I will. And just look out for me. You're going to see me on Tubi, on Amazon, and all that type of stuff coming up pretty soon. So stay tuned for that documentary, Once a Marine, Always a Marine. Once a Marine, Always a Veteran. Sorry, correction.